Hello and welcome to the Hibs Observer Friday afternoon briefing with myself, Liam Bryce, and today I'm joined again by Matty Fairnie to look ahead to Saturday's trip to Dens Park as Hibs look to finally get their season back on track. Matty, thanks as always for joining us. How are you getting on?
Good, thanks. Yeah, how are you?
Not bad, not bad. Looking forward to the return of the domestic football. Did you need that reset after the St Mirren game?
Do you know, it probably has been a positive thing, but I hate the international breaks. I mean, it's good when Scotland are doing well, but it's an unwelcome distraction most of the time. I'm just like, I love the Hibs. I love the club football, and even when it's grim, I think it's like what women say about childbirth is they forget the bad part because so they want to do it again. Like that's how like sort of biologically folk want to have more than one child. And I think I kind of do a similar thing with Hibs. I just forget how bad it is, and then as soon as the game coming up, I'm like, yes, here we go again.
No, it's a pretty it's a spot on analogy that to us, and you get to do it all over again tomorrow because Hibs are off to Dens Park. Just before we get started, folks, just as always, a word for our sponsor, Good Vibes Giveaways. They're proud to sponsor the Hibs Observer and offer fantastic prizes to fans of the club. Those prizes change weekly and they include tech and gadgets, days out, weekends away, tax-free cash, and even Oasis tickets. Get your tickets now at www.goodvibesgiveaways.com and enter for your chance to spread the good vibes. So, Matty, Hibs are back tomorrow, off to Dens Park. It was actually the site of a rare away win last season. I remember, was it Lewis Miller, Jair Tavares, 2 goals?
2 goals, yeah. Miller
Yep,
got sent off as well in
so
the
he
game,
did.
but we held on, yeah.
Yeah,
A
it was
cracking
certainly.
goal for Tavares as well, which is like a rare thing.
We were right in the middle of that. It was that sort of wee mini renaissance that he had back then, and that ended up being the peak of it, really, didn't it?
Yeah, that was as good as it got.
So I mean, Hibs could take. I remember it not being particularly pretty that day, even though it was 2 good goals Hibs scored. But I mean, is it a case of? I feel we've been saying this for weeks on end now, but is it anyone will do, as the title of the video says?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a crucial game. I was thinking about this through the week, whether like you look at David Gray's position, and I'm sure we'll talk about it as this goes on. But after having had the back, and I thought the next game is almost like doesn't really matter. Like if we get beat, they're not going to sack him because they can't do it one game into one game following the statement. But I think it'll give us a really good idea of how behind him the players are when you see the reaction, because there's no doubt the players will have seen how close he is to sort of losing his job. And this is the sort of game that if they are properly behind him, then we would expect to see like a really big performance from him. And if that doesn't happen, I think that's probably going to be quite telling.
Is that alarm bells for you? Because Nicky, I think it was Nicky Cadden spoke after the last game and said that he kind of sort of rejected the idea that the players don't care. But I mean, I suppose it's one thing saying that. And I mean, I'm not doubting what he says. Like I genuinely think like sometimes that the players they do. I think they do care. I mean, they're professionals. They don't like getting beat. Nobody likes getting beat. I suppose at any level of football.
Yeah.
But I mean, I suppose it is one thing saying it and then actually putting that into practice, because it's more than just trying hard, isn't it? Like, to show you care, you need to put in the performances as well. It's not. I think just a black and white question of effort, really, is it?
Absolutely. There's loads of play. I mean, I think there's a confidence thing as well. I think where a player's playing with confidence, then they can take a good first touch without thinking about it. They can play a pass really without kind of putting too much thought into it. But when that confidence isn't there and they're worried about getting a bit of abuse for the crowd or whatever, if a ball's dropping out the sky, they sort of overthink what their first touch is going to be like, and it ends up bouncing off them, and then it sort of spirals from there. So I think that like confidence comes into it. I agree with you. I don't think there's any lack of effort for the players. I've not seen any point in the season where I thought that they're not trying. But I think we spoke about it before, that bravery thing. It was somebody really wanted to take the game by the scruff of the neck. I think that's if I was David Gray and I was going to the players and saying, I need you to show that you're behind me here, you'd be looking for a couple of the, at least the senior players in the team, but a couple of folk to really sort of take the game by the scruff of the neck and sort of almost have that determination that, no matter what, we're not going to lose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting point, that because that's what we were at the Hibs or the women's Edinburgh derby last Sunday, and the women's manager Grant Scott, he was speaking afterwards about how sort of players that he carried out the game plan as to what he expected. Like again, there wasn't a lot of quality in the game, but he was. I think managers can be happy with how the players are carrying out their instructions, but see it and the players can be following that. They can be feeling that they're following everything the manager is asking them to do. But I think at the end of the day, it's that word responsibility and bravery.
Yeah.
I think in times like this, and then certainly as applied to the women's game last weekend, games like that, big games, it just needs somebody to step up and kind of say, like, right, I'm going to be the guy today. It's all well and good, following out the game plan, saying that you're following out the game plan, but they still need players to provide moments. I suppose I think that's what Hibs need at this moment in time. I've no, as you kind of say there, I don't have any doubt about effort. And I'm sure, the kind of noises they're making, and I'm sure they are trying to do what the managers are doing, but I think at a certain point, I know it's a cliche about like tactics going out the window and stuff like that, but I think it just needs somebody at this point in time, when you're in the trenches like this, somebody to provide a moment of inspiration to drag you out of it, really.
Yeah, it's like we don't have the sort of talisman in the team. And if you look back to, like, you had Martin Boyle in his first spell with us, before he left for Saudi, he was absolutely that player. Like, it was the anniversary of the 3-1 against Rangers at Hampden through the week there, and I was watching that game back, and you're thinking, geez, where's that Martin Boyle gone? But Boyle at that time was taking games constantly by the scruff of the neck and making an impact. Or Yuan coming off the bench at Tiny and getting 2 goals. There was players just doing things to make an impact on the game, and I don't think we've really seen that from anybody in the team this season. And that's probably the bit that's most lacking from our performances.
Yeah, just on Martin Boyle, what have you made of his season so far? Because there was a few weeks where it felt like sort of maybe hard to criticise in the sense that he had provided sort of more goal contributions than anybody else, which again at this in relative terms isn't really kind of saying an awful lot considering how Hibs have started the season. But it's that sort of talismanic element to his game that's taking it by the scruff of the neck. I mean, numbers aside, I don't think. I think probably deep down he would say this as well. It doesn't feel like we are watching the Martin Boyle that the Hibs fans know. And has provided so many of those moments. So, I mean, what do you feel is kind of going on with him there at the moment? I mean, is it a symptom of how the team are doing? Is it him himself? I know it's difficult to put your finger on exactly why, but he is one of the guys that you'd be looking to, really, isn't he? Or maybe even the guy.
Yeah. I wonder if it's maybe he feels the extra responsibility because of his relationship with David Gray. I don't know if that plays in it, because you definitely, again, it goes back to, I don't think there's a lack of effort for Boyle. And I thought his early season performances, like through the group stages up to the Celtic game, the League Cup, I thought he looked terrific. I mean, he was firing overhead kicks, and things like that. And fair enough, he got a wee bit of luck with that goal with the goalkeeper spilling it. But to even be trying that is when you've got a confident player. But he looked like Martin Boyle of a couple of years back at that point. And then we had the Celtic game, and I think that rocked everybody really. And he never properly looked like his head was in the right place after that. I don't think so. I honestly don't know. Like, I don't think we're playing to his strengths particularly. I think Hibs just now are very like, if I compare performances recently to the performances when Boyle was shown for it, I think he was getting the ball in front of him a lot of the time. Like that ball in space. If you remember, like, Hanlon used to ping the diagonals over to Boyle to run onto, and he had that pace to sort of terrorise defences. I think Boyle's getting the ball into feet too often, or he's picking up too deep. And I think we need him a bit further up the pitch, and we need the ball in behind for him to run onto. And I think if we can get that, then he'll probably start to look like a really good asset again.
Yeah, because we did a wee analysis of him a couple of weeks ago, and I think that, again, I think it was one of the sort of conclusions that we sort of drew from it, is not kind of getting him the ball in areas where he can be effective. I think, I don't think he's, you talk about wingers losing pace as they age. I think he's probably still faster than most players, but maybe not quite as electric as he was, which is, again, he is kind of getting into his 30s now. He had that bad injury. It catches up with everybody. I'm not kind of, sitting here and saying that, Martin Boyle has suddenly lost every ounce of pace that he has, but I think it was especially apparent in the Dundee United game at home, where the ball, as you say, it was kind of going out to him, to his feet a lot. And then there was Dundee United players, I think there was maybe just shifting too over, and it's. I think even 1-on-1, you can't expect somebody. He's not going to beat a man every single time. But then when the play's a bit slow, the ball's getting out to him to his feet, as you say, instead of into space for him to attack. Guys can double up on him. I'm not convinced there's a particularly great understanding between him and Lewis Miller on that side. I think certainly if you compare it to the other side, where I think one of the more positive elements of Hibs play, in at least some of these games, is there does seem to be a wee bit of synergy between Junior Hoylett and Jordan Abita. I think that's maybe just because their styles are maybe sort of more complementary. Hoylett likes to tuck in, Abita likes to go on the outside, he likes to put in those early crosses, and it seems a good fit. And I'm not trying to make excuses for Boyle, because I think he probably does need to do more, considering his senior position at the club. But I do agree that Hibs aren't getting the ball to him in the sort of more dangerous areas. I think the goal he scored against St Johnstone was the perfect example of what you need to maybe try and engineer a bit more of. The winning goal, the second goal against St Johnstone, where Chris Cadden played him through. He got on the blind side of the fullback. That's the kind of moments you're trying to create.
Absolutely.
But we're not kind of seeing enough of that. I mean, I was just talking a wee bit there about the kind of relationship between him and Lewis Miller. I don't really. I know that they're international teammates. They go away together, but I'm not quite sure they quite get each other's game. If that's just me, just watching from the outside.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that, and I think it's maybe because I think Miller's still developing into that role, and I think Miller's still quite unpredictable with what he's going to do. And yeah, I think he looks more comfortable when Cadden's beside him. When it's Cadden and Boyle on the right hand side, we're a bit more effective. Although I think probably Miller's slightly better defensively. There's probably not that much in it. I guess these things come with time, and time isn't really anything that's something that Hibs have at the moment, and it is a bit of a problem. But I don't think there's a great understanding. And you would have thought maybe the international stuff would have helped, but I don't think Boyle played the last couple of games for Australia, so they're not necessarily getting that time on the pitch together there either.
No, not necessarily. So I think one of the big questions this weekend is team selection, considering in the last game that David Gray made 3 changes at half time. Is he going to stick with certain guys that he brought on? I know that the second, I wasn't at the St Mirren game, but I've seen bits of it back by all accounts. The second half was marginally improved from a very low base. So, I mean, are you expecting changes? I know there's been a lot made already. At times, maybe consistency of selection in certain areas wasn't quite there, but it's. He kind of went for broke in that last game, David Gray, and now you're thinking, does he give other guys a chance from the start this time?
I kind of think he has to. I think he has to make the point to the players that your position isn't guaranteed, and I think he's been really loyal to a lot of players in that team this season. We do a sort of team prediction on a Friday on the podcast, and by and large, I think we get 9 or 10 out of 11 right most weeks, because you know roughly what you're going to get. But I think if you're not getting the results, then you eventually going to have to say, "Oh, these guys aren't doing it. I'm going to have to bring people in." I think Levitt made a good case for himself against St Mirren. I think the only caveat with that game was second half St Mirren sat back like they're 2-0 up.
Yeah,
they were really kind of comfortable and able to let Hibs have the ball, and that suited Levitt in that game. So whether we get that time and space on the ball from the off against Dundee is a different story. But I don't think any player really could be looking at their position as being safe based on how the season's gone. So I would hope there's some changes.
Yeah, I think just as I've brought up Joe's comment here, we need to play Dylan Levitt at number 10. We desperately need a creative midfield player. Dylan Levitt at number 10 is one of the online talking points, isn't it? It's one that crops up a lot, but we've not seen him really play there. He didn't. I think it seems to be a wee bit of a misconception that he played there a lot at Dundee United. As much as I think on paper you could see why, you could put he is that kind of player who can pick more of a pass. You can see passes perhaps that others can't, but again, I'm not sure he's kind of the profile of player he is exactly fits what David Gray wants from that role, but maybe we are getting to the point now where he has to alter that. I don't know. Would you give him a chance in that role? Is it worth trying at this point? But again, my only concern is like there's quite a few managers have looked at him now and decided not to play him there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know Joe comes on our phone in and he's been championing Dylan Levitt for the number 10 for a wee while. So I wouldn't mind seeing him getting a try there. I think he's got a lot of the attributes that you need, but I also think one of Levitt's strengths is his ability to kind of dictate the play from a bit deeper. And I can understand why managers play him in that sort of deeper role. So, like the sort of quarterback position they talk about where he can, switch the play quite comfortably and he can pick those passes. I think one of the things that Levitt brings that we don't see from other midfielders is a willingness to shoot, though. Like he'll shoot from outside the box, and he's got a decent shot on him. Listen, I think we're at the stage now where you're almost going to have to try radical things. So it wouldn't hurt to give him a run out and see how he gets on.
Yeah, Jason Ladd says he wants to see Rocky, Ekpateta, Jack Iredale back three. You're nodding your head there, Matty.
Yeah, that's it's probably. I don't know if I would go for Rocky over O'Hora, but I think it's a kind of toss of the coin between them. But I thought we looked good with the back three against Dundee United when we moved to that. Again, like we've not been brilliant with any formation that we've picked, so it kind of feels like we're clutching at straws a wee bit.
I know, we're splitting hairs, clutching at straws a wee bit. I know,
but I wouldn't be against it. Like whether it was Rocky, whether it was O'Hora, with Ekpateta and Iredale in there, I wouldn't be upset to see it.
Yeah, again, it would. I mean, I think Dundee generally play with a back three, so again, you can go there, you can match up against them, you can match up against their shape. I think, as you said, David Gray, it was kind of forced on him at Tannadice, but it looked a bit better. But as you say, it's kind of you're sort of scrambling around for things to cling to at this point. But yeah, we'll see. We shall see on Saturday. Just the kind of the wider picture. I know you're saying, and I agree with you. Hibs are not going to put out the statement back in David Gray and then get rid of him if he loses the next game. But this is. You've got Dundee on Saturday, and then it's another game a few days later, Aberdeen on the Tuesday. It's kind of hard to overstate the importance, really, of these two games, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a huge week for Hibs, whichever way you kind of cut it. I think it gets away with a bad result tomorrow if that's the way it goes. Hopefully it doesn't go that way. I think if it's a sore one against Aberdeen, and it has the potential to be based on how they've been playing this season. If it's a really bad one at Easter Road, I think that might signal the end. Montgomery, I think, went on the back of a 4-0 defeat to Aberdeen. It wouldn't surprise me if it was a heavy defeat that we saw the same kind of reaction. And certainly, I don't think he would get away with 3 defeats. If we lost to Motherwell on Saturday as well.
3 in the space of a week would be hard.
Yeah, but that's worst case scenario, isn't it? Like, I think it's very easy to sort of predict the sort of the doom scenario with it. There is obviously the prospect of us picking up 3 wins, and if he was to get 3 wins, then what a difference that would make to our season as well. It feels unlikely, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility that we could pick up 9 points in the next 3 games, as far-fetched as it sounds. And if he did that, I think you're almost completely removing talk of him getting the sack. I think it puts us right up the table. We'll have a big win in amongst there by beating Aberdeen, if that was the way that it panned out. And then, Dundee and Motherwell have been pretty close to us over the last couple of seasons. So if we can get points back on them, all of a sudden the season feels completely different. So I think it's a massive week for the club, massive week for David Gray. I suppose it just remains to be seen which way it goes.
You've got to frame it as an opportunity, really. There, I know. I think based on how things have gone this season, it's probably our first instinct is to reach for the more negative scenarios. But it is a chance. No more internationals to derail things. Hibs have got a solid run at it now for a number of weeks and months. It's an opportunity to really kickstart now, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if I was David Gray, that would be the message to the players, to say, the season's not gone yet. It has been difficult. We're not in the best position, but here's a week where we can, find ourselves in a completely different position if things go our way, and we put the work in for it. So, It's I think it's almost like there has to be at least, I think, probably 2 wins in there for it. I think if we come away for 4 points for 9 or 3 points for 9, like going through the week unbeaten is not going to be enough. If it's 3 draws, I think everybody's going to feel that as a pretty negative outcome. So I think we do need a couple of wins in there to kind of change how people are feeling about things.
Yeah, and I think with tomorrow's game being away from home, look, I'm not for a minute, suggesting that people weren't, didn't have the right to be as angry as they were at Easter Road the last game. But considering how kind of sour it turned, is it probably a good thing? And I know it doesn't solve the problem long term of playing at home in front of expectant fans, but is it in this kind of isolated, in this isolated instance? Maybe is it a better thing for the team that they're playing away from home, because they don't seem to be able to kind of cope with it at home at the moment? And that, again, that's not, I'm not putting that on supporters, and that's on the players. But in terms of, they would probably take an away game at the moment, would you think?
I think so. There is a little bit less pressure on. There's also not the pressure to force the game when you're away from home as well, which there is when you're at home, and I think that can impact how players feel about it. The Hibs away support this season and last season has been terrific. There'll be a good backing for the team up there as well, and very vocal as well. So I think it's like a real positive. I think the fans will play their part tomorrow as well, and definitely help the team.
Yeah, as you say, always a strong away contingent. I'm sure there will be tomorrow, slightly later kick-off time, 5:45, finished live on Premier Sports. I think we'll leave it there for today, because the Hibs press conference, David Gray is going to be speaking in the next, him and a player will be speaking across the next hour or so. So we need to park it there and have a wee look at that. Patrick is at HTC for us today. So stay tuned for updates. David Gray will obviously be speaking for the first time since that statement came out after the St Mirren game. So it'll be interesting to see how he addresses that. If you're watching us on YouTube today, folks, please do consider hitting the subscribe button to help us to continue growing the channel. Obviously helps us keep bringing you these videos, and then when we do go live, you'll get a notification to let you know, and you can jump on straight away so you don't miss anything. But thank you as always for joining us, folks. Thanks to Matty for joining us. Hibs, as I said, off to Dens Park tomorrow, and we'll have all the build up from the press conference across this afternoon and into this evening. So wherever you're watching the game, have a good one, have a good weekend, and we'll speak to you again very, very soon. Cheers.